So, let's talk about power. Is it just a dirty game? Today, we're going to decode one of the most controversial books ever written on strategy, Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. We're going to dive in and try to figure out if it's a practical guide for the real world or just a cynical handbook for manipulators. All right, let's get right into it. The way Greene sees it, power isn't about brute force, not at all. He calls it a handbook on the arts of indirection. The whole idea is that real, lasting power comes from moves that nobody sees coming. It's a subtle, social game. This one sentence right from the preface is the entire argument in a nutshell. Greene's point is that power dynamics are everywhere. You can't just opt out. So your only real choice is, are you going to learn the game and play it like an artist, or are you going to ignore the rules and just get pushed around like a bungler? So what exactly is this game he keeps talking about? Well, the core idea of the book is that there's this huge gap between how the world looks on the surface and how it actually works underneath. Think about it. Modern society wears this mask, right? A mask of politeness, fairness, and equality. We talk a big game about collaboration and being decent to each other, but Greene argues that's just the surface level. Underneath it all, a much older, much more ruthless game for influence is always being played. To really drive that point home, look at this quote from Machiavelli, who was a huge influence on this book. It highlights the danger of being naive. If you're the only one playing by the nice rules, the book says you're basically setting yourself up to be outmaneuvered by the huge number of people who aren't. Okay, so if the world is this hidden, strategic game, how do you even begin to navigate it? To explain this, Greene brings back this old historical figure, the courtier, and he presents us with what he calls the courtier's dilemma. So picture the royal courts back in Renaissance Europe. You couldn't just get into a fistfight. Everyone had to be elegant, sophisticated, and polite. But behind the scenes, it was a total snake pit of rivalry and scheming. The person who succeeded, the perfect courtier, was the one who mastered appearing like a perfect gentleman while subtly crushing their rivals. Greene's argument is that our modern world, our offices, our social scenes, they're not that different. And what this means is that direct confrontation, calling people out or being aggressive, it's seen as clumsy. It's ineffective. Instead, the so-called perfect courtier uses these more subtle tools, things like charm, long-term strategic planning, all while keeping up a flawless public reputation to get what they really want. All right, so that's the philosophy. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty and look at a few of the actual laws themselves to see how this all works in practice. Law number 1 really sets the tone for the whole book. Never outshine the master. This is all about managing the ego of the person in charge. See, if you make your boss look good, you're a valuable asset. But the second your talent and your ideas start making them feel insecure or threatened, you suddenly become a problem that needs to disappear. And this next one, Law 3, follows perfectly from that. If people have no idea what you're really trying to achieve, how can they possibly stop you? The book says you should always keep people in a fog of misdirection. Send them down the wrong path. By the time they figure out what your real goal was, it's way too late to do anything about it. Now, when you put these two laws together, you really start to see how this book creates a kind of strategic toolkit. Law 1, never outshine the master, that's pure defense. It's about protecting yourself from the people above you. But Law 3, conceal your intentions, that's all offense. It's about creating an advantage by keeping everyone else guessing. Let's look at one more, and it's one that Greene says is an absolute cornerstone. Reputation is everything. A powerful reputation can intimidate people and win you battles before they even begin. But if your reputation gets damaged, you're suddenly vulnerable from every direction. And there's this amazing story from ancient China that illustrates this perfectly. The famous general Zhuge Liang was facing an army of 150,000 men with just a handful of his own soldiers. It was a hopeless situation. So what did he do? He used his reputation. His rival, Sima Yi, knew that Liang was a master trickster. So when Sima Yi arrived and saw the city gates wide open, with Liang just calmly sitting on the wall playing a lute, he panicked. This had to be an ambush. Sima Yi ordered a full retreat, completely defeated, not by an army, but by a reputation. And all of this brings us right back to where we started, back to the book's fundamental challenge to us, the readers. Now that we understand the rules of this hidden game, what do we do? The book's viewpoint is pretty stark. It says that power itself isn't good or evil. It's just a tool. It's an unavoidable part of being human. The key is to stop thinking about things in terms of morality or good intentions and start looking at them purely based on their effects and their strategic value. And it's really important to remember, Greene didn't just invent these rules out of thin air. He's presenting them as the distilled wisdom of 3,000 years of human history. He's basically taken all the knowledge from the world's greatest strategists and courtiers and is just offering it to you. In the end, the book doesn't give you an easy answer. It doesn't pass a moral judgment. It just lays out the game board, shows you the pieces, and explains the rules of this hidden world. It's left up to you to decide. Is mastering these laws a cynical but necessary tool for survival? Or is it a step down a much darker path? And that, I think, is a question worth spending some time with.